Hello. Hi, guys. Welcome to this webinar on how to enjoy time with your kids without changing them and without changing your life, without getting more time, without having your husband help. That is a real challenge, right? We can always enjoy our kids when we have all the help, we have all the time, we're not stressed, we're relaxed, and the kids are behaving. Like that's super easy, right? So this is why I wanted to talk to you. And the reason, let me introduce myself. So I'm Natalia Schneimler. I'm a life coach, and I'm also a mom of 4 boys, which if you hear any stomping, they're upstairs. They're running around. So if you hear that, that's them. Their age is 4 till 8, and they are loud, they're crazy, and I love them. And the reason why I even came to this work is because I had struggled so much with my oldest son when he was a toddler. And I found it was so frustrating during bedtime, especially. It was coming out a lot where I was frustrated, and I didn't feel like I was being a good mom, and I really, really, really wanted a really good relationship with him. And I felt frustrated and angry and resentment when he wanted me to stay longer, but I was so out of, at my limit that I didn't want to stay. And because I didn't know how to solve it, I didn't understand what was going on. It was building up, building up, and building up. And I was taking it out on him by snapping, yelling, like just not being the mom I want to be, just not being nice, right? And so that was really, really killing me. So I went out and I tried all these like different books, talked to a therapist, and that really helped. And I found this concept that I want to teach you today that just made so much sense, that it works in everything. And this is why I teach this to moms, because it's so dear to my heart. I just, it breaks my heart when we don't have the relationship we want with our kids, because it means so much to us. And I want to give that to you. So let's begin. I'm going to tell you what this presentation is not about, so you know what not to expect, so we're clear. Okay, so what this is not about is, I'm not going to tell you how to parent, because I already believe you're an amazing parent and you don't need to change anything in that. Okay, I'm not going to teach you how to change your kids' behavior, because we know if that worked, we would have already done it, right? It doesn't. Even if sometimes we can change it, it doesn't actually solve the problem. It, the next time they misbehave, we are back to square one, feeling frustrated. And I'm not going to tell you how to behave, like how you can behave differently, so hopefully your kids change how they behave, because also that doesn't work. I've tried it myself. It doesn't work. And if that did work, I would be teaching you about that. Okay. By the way, if you have any questions, enter them in the Q&A box. I'm going to answer them. And at the end of the session, I'm going to answer them. Okay. So the other thing is, I'm not going to tell you how to be a perfect parent and never yell, because also I've tried it, and I'm sure you have tried it, and that never helped, and that never works, because we're human. We will have mistakes, we will lose our temper sometimes, and to try to achieve that will only create extra suffering. So if I knew how to do that, I will teach you that as well. And the last thing that I want to say is, I'm not going to teach you or tell you how to think positively about your life or your kids. That is the biggest misconception. And when I talk about it later, if you are thinking, well, this is kind of like thinking positively, bring it up in your questions, and we'll address it and talk through it, okay? Because it's really important. So then what this presentation is about is, what we think the problem is actually not the problem. So we'll talk about that. And what the problem is. And so see, I don't like to call it a problem in this context, because that implies there's something wrong with us, or something wrong that we're doing. So the way I like to look at it is, what is the root of your suffering? What is the reason why you're angry or frustrated? And so we'll talk about this. And once we can see what it is clearly, we, obviously want to solve it. So what are the 3 ways we can solve for it? So this is a lot of words, but I'm just going to tell you, this is about, let's talk about example of me with my son. And when you hear me talk about that, I want you to imagine you and your child, and what it is that you think stands between you and you enjoying time with them. So plug that in for when you're hearing me talk about me. So back when I was putting my son to bed, I thought the problem was something outside of me. It's like this thing I have to get, like this quality time. For me, I thought it was quality time. I need to like have this quality time with him at bedtime so that I can have a good relationship. But how do I get that? I don't want to be there. I'm tired. I'm frustrated. I'm resenting it. I'm not patient. What is it that, how do I solve this problem? I don't know, right? I need to have patience. What is patience? I'm not patient, right? So when I thought that this is what I need, like these are all the things that you might have time. You're like, I need more time in my day so I get a lot more done, or everything done so that I'm relaxed with my kid. So then I'll enjoy time with them, right? You might think, if my kid behaves differently, if like he's not such a whiny person, or if he's not that as difficult, or if he had more, if he was more calm, right? Whatever it is about your kid, like if he changed a bit, it would be a lot more enjoyable for me, right? We've all been there, I'm sure, right? Like, so husbands help. A lot of that comes up with like, my husband doesn't help. I do everything. If only he helped, it would be so much better. Okay. We all have that patience. We're like, I need more patience. Let me just go buy some. Can't buy some. Tired, if I wasn't as tired, and if my husband helped and I had more time and I had less to do, I wouldn't be as tired, and then I would enjoy my time with my kids. Too much to do, temper, quality time. So all of these things are vague and are outside of our control. Like, right? We can't be patient all the time, right? So when I believed that this was the problem, I was trying to fix it by fixing the problem, but that didn't work because I didn't want to be there. So I couldn't get the quality time. So how am I supposed to enjoy time with my kids when I can't fix the problem, right? So 1 second, please. I'm in the middle of a presentation, please. Thank you. So this is my kid, sorry. And so what I've discovered is that between me, this is me frustrated, and between that thing that we think the problem is, that there is an extra layer that is invisible to us, that is just there, that is actually creating that suffering for us. And that is what I'm thinking in my head. This thought that I'm thinking in my head is happening between me and that thing. Because this thing, let's say it's quality time, doesn't cause me to feel anything. This thing doesn't create any feeling for me. It doesn't affect me until I have a thought about it. I mean, my thoughts can change about it. So at that time I was thinking I should stay with him longer so I have a good relationship. And so when I thought that sentence in my head, that sentence created a feeling for me in my body, which was frustration. So that frustration fueled how I showed up in bedtime. I was not listening, right? I was rushing through the bedtime, which made it even longer because my child didn't feel heard, and he didn't, like I wasn't really there. So he was like, mama, mama, mama. I was not listening. I was staying longer, but I didn't want to stay longer, which was making me kind of resent myself and him. I didn't want to stay there. Not connect. I'm not enjoying. I'm resenting. And when I'm doing all those things during bedtime, I am creating my time with him where I'm not enjoying my time. Do you see how I did that? It wasn't because of this quality time, but it all started from this thought, right? This thought is in my head and it's not out here. So this is the big difference. Do you have any questions about that, guys? Like, this is a lot to take in, right? For us because then we are the ones responsible for how we think and how we feel and how we show up in our life with our kids, right? So, and then this is us happy, right? So how do we get, if the root of our suffering is not time or husband's help, or like lack of husband's help, or lack of time, or lack of quality time, or if we are tired, right? If that's not the problem, and the problem or the root of our suffering is what the thought in our head is at the time, then why don't we just think a thought that makes us feel happy all the time? I get this question a lot, and my answer to that is absolutely, right? It's we You can't think a thought. Okay, so here, if the root of your suffering is not the thing, and it is the thought you're thinking, then why don't we just change our thought? And we do, right? We do change our thought. That's like our first go-to. We're like, okay, now I know. This is kind of like the positive thinking thing. People think, okay, if the problem is my thought, I'm just going to think positively. But the problem with the positive thinking is that we still believe that the thing we're thinking about is still negative. What I'm suggesting is that the thing that we're thinking about, let's say quality time, is not positive or negative. It's neutral. So we don't need to think positively about a neutral thing, right? We can think anything we want about a neutral thing. It might feel better for us to think a thought that creates a good feeling for us. But sometimes, because we're human, we will think thoughts that create a feeling that is negative for us, right? So this is the first thing that people try, like, okay, I'm going to think all the positive things so I can enjoy time with my kids. And if that works, great. But because we are human, if we think a thought that we don't believe, it doesn't work. Okay. This is where positive thinking fails, because if we don't believe what we're thinking, we're just going to get even more frustrated, because we are like, yeah, I love my kid, and it's fine that he's not listening. That doesn't work, right? So then the other next option we go to is we're frustrated. Well, I'm still thinking these thoughts that make my frustration, and it's not even my thinking anymore, it's the kid, right? So we go back to frustration, and we're blaming, either we're blaming ourselves for thinking the thought that's creating our frustration, or we're blaming the kid. We're like, no, it's not my thinking, it's the actual kid, right? And the third option I want to offer to you is when we can't change our thought, and we can't change a kid, and we are frustrated, what we do in that moment, we have a beautiful opportunity to own that, well, the reason why we're feeling this frustration is not because of the kid, but because of how we are, like exactly what we're thinking in our head. So it's the root of our frustration is coming from our thought. And when we do that, we take responsibility for how we feel. And we're no longer blaming him. We're just sitting there, we're like, I'm frustrated. This is coming from my thought in my head. And I can't change my thought right now. And I'm still believing the thought. But if I am believing that this is coming from my thought, ultimately I have the power eventually to change my thought, to think something different, right? So if we really own how we're feeling, we make this option available for us again, right? Do you see how that happens? And then this is a cycle that we can go through and practice all the time to own how we're feeling, so that we can ultimately change it if we want to. And the other thing I want to suggest to you is that you might not always want to be happy. In fact, I teach and I believe that we don't want to be happy all the time. In fact, we want to be in the 50-50 of life, the negative part of the life and the positive emotions of life. For example, if somebody dies, right, you don't want to be happy about that. You probably want to feel grief and pain. If somebody is hurt, the same thing, right? If your kids are not listening, right? We think we want to be happy all the time with our kids. But the truth of it is, if they're not listening, you're not going to be like, oh, I'm so happy about it. This is amazing, right? You may actually want to choose to be frustrated at them, when they're not listening for the 5th time. But the difference will be that you are not going to blame them for your frustration. You're going to own it for yourself, like you're creating it for yourself. And that's going to make a world of a difference for you. You're not going to take it out on them. You're not going to blame them. you're going to own it like a thing you're wearing that day, and you're not going to blame anyone else. You're not going to know that that is your choice you're making, and that's okay. I want to be frustrated when my kids are not listening, right? That's a human nature. So when I suggest to you that your root of your suffering is your thought, I also am suggesting that you don't need to change all your thoughts to positive thoughts. Absolutely not. We're human beings. And in fact, when we start doing this work, we come up against that as our first obstacle. We are so human. Our brain thinks so many thoughts, and our brain's designed to look for what's wrong. So it finds everything that's wrong. And that's when we need to start managing it, saying, whoa, whoa, whoa. This is totally fine. Nothing's gone wrong. They're not listening. I'm frustrated. It's not a problem. And I am the one who ultimately decides how I want to feel. And I'm deciding I want to feel frustrated here, but I'm not out like something's wrong, right? So this is why when we start working on our brain, if the root of our suffering is in our brain, we work with our brain, we work on it. Like, how do we change the thoughts, right? Because we still want to like change our thoughts that are not serving us and choose them consciously. And we still will have like the negative part of our life come up with our thoughts that are coming to our life that are not creating the best feelings for us. And that will happen, but we can still choose some conscious thoughts that we want to believe. Like, I'm a good mom, even though I yell, right? Instead of, oh, I yell and I'm a terrible mom all the time, right? No. I'm a really great mom. I yell sometimes. I'm an amazing mom, right? These are kind of the conscious thoughts that we can choose to believe and practice believing, and our life will change and we will find evidence for that. So just like when I like to make this analogy with a car, right? If the car's engine needs work, we don't expect the engine to fix itself, right? The engine is in itself. It cannot see the problem because it is in itself, right? So we don't expect it to come out and look at itself and fix it. And the same thing with our brain. When we are living in our brain, we do not see our brain from the outside of it because we're in it, right? So we need a car mechanic or a brain mechanic to come and see, oh, this is what the problem is. And you're like, oh, right, I see it now, right? With your brain. And then the mechanic, sees it from the outside, can solve it, can point it out and fix the brain in a way that works for it. And this is what a coach does. So when my clients work with me, this is what I help them do, is work on their brain with them, with my brain, because I'm outside of their brain. So we can do that work together, right? So if you are interested, I am doing a 6 months program to fully enjoy time with your kids. And I invite you to sign up for consultation today to have that be your reality starting from the first session. My clients don't need to wait 6 months to fully enjoy time with them. 6 months is something that will get them to be a pro at that, to have overcome all the obstacles, to know, to get to know their brain, to be aware of all their thoughts. But the results start coming almost right away because we make that decision that this is me. I am a good mom. I love spending time with my kids, and this is no longer going to be me who is miserable all the time, wants to kill them, and blames herself for everything. Okay. Does anyone have any questions? Let me just check the Q&A box. No questions. I assume you guys are all set. To sign up for the free consultation with me, you can simply put your name in the Q&A box, and I will talk to you later. Or you can email me at natalia@coachingnatalia.com. You can also find me on Instagram or Facebook under coaching_Natalia. Or I really invite you to come listen to my podcast. I have a podcast, Be Nice to Yourself podcast. And that really talks about how we can be nice to ourselves so we don't yell at our kids, so we can really enjoy ourselves with them. So thank you so much for coming. I love you, and I will see you soon. Bye.